Hey, you. Finally awake.
Hello friends and welcome to Skyrim, but I'm a pacifist. I've been kind of wanting to see if I could complete Skyrim without doing any damage. Okay, so here are some of the rules. I can't hurt anything, okay? I can't punch anyone, I can't use destruction spells, I can't use weapons. Using conjuration spells, though limited, are allowed, okay? I can have my followers kill people, I can have them do anything. I just can't hurt anything by myself. I wanted to complete this in vanilla, so at the beginning I have no mods installed, which I was kind of upset about because I really missed my character creation mods when I started making my character, and I wanted to go for a different character vibe because in real life I am blonde, I have blue eyes and everything, but I wanted to do something a little bit different, so I gave myself black hair, some war paint, and some scars. Just to make things a little bit differently, instead of putting Taffy as my name, I asked Google to randomly generate one for me. So the name I used was, you guys know how good I am at pronouncing things. It's, Oluwazgun Azad. I think I am so bad at pronouncing names, but that's the one I use. Should I have gone for one I could pronounce? Probably. Did I? No. So the beginning of the playthrough is basically the same as any other beginning because your hands are bound, so you can't really do much. So there's no way I can actually hurt anyone while doing it. And I followed Hadvar to the keep because I haven't completed the Stormcloaks questline before, which I'm doing on my modded playthrough if you want to go watch that.
Do you have Gale to choose from? I'm going to see if I can find something for these bones.
Hadvar freed me and then had me look in this chest where I picked up all of the armor, the key, and the boots, but I left the sword there because I'm not going to need it.
Come on, this way.
So when we went into the room full of the Stormcloaks, I basically just watched Hadvar absolutely destroy them. I was like his own personal cheerleader throughout this entire thing. I stole a few cabbages and we went on our way. I looted everything good from the room, and once again, if there were like any poisons or weapons, I just left those. Then we made it to the torturer's room where once again I just watched everyone, and I picked a few locks, and there was actually a spell tome for sparks in there, except I can't use destruction spells, so I just looked at it longingly and stole everything. It was at this point when I realized I could add mods to make the game look prettier for the viewers. And so I did that. I added several mods to enhance the skies and everything to make it look prettier, and I'll leave them in the description if you guys want to see which mods I used. And I was getting kind of upset because I'm like, oh, I totally could have like made my character look better with the mods, but it's fine. So I just kind of ran away from a single Stormcloak hoping that Hadvar would save me, which he eventually did. And then we continued through the dungeon. When Hadvar and I made it to the bear, I actually just like dropped his gift of a bow and arrows onto the ground. It's not that I didn't appreciate it, I just didn't want to hold the weapon. And then I stole the gold out of this and I snuck past the bear. Once that was done, Hadvar and I made it safely outside. Okay, maybe we weren't perfectly safe, but that's beside the point.
Looks like he's gone for good this time. But I don't think we should stick around to see if he comes back.
Hadvar said it was best if we split up, but yeah, I wasn't going to leave him until I got a follower. At this point, it was raining so hard, I had absolutely no idea what Hadvar was saying.
I was a boy.
So just like I do in real life when I can't hear anyone, I smile, nod, and hope they didn't ask a question. We made it to the Guardian Stones, and I picked the Mage Stone because I was thinking I can't really use any of the other abilities, so why not just use the Mage Stone so I can like give myself better restoration.
Well, to each his own. It's not for me to judge.
And Hadvar says he wasn't going to judge while clearly judging me, so yeah, that was fun. When I finally saw Riverwood, I was super excited because I was exhausted from watching Hadvar do all of the work.
She's a friend. Save my life. Come on.
When Hadvar said I saved his life, I was flattered, but knew I did not do a single thing to help. When I sat down, for some reason I like needed a cabbage, and I don't know why. So then Alvar gave me a gift, and it was like super, super sweet of him. I feel bad that I kill him later.
What?
There was no way I was leaving Riverwood without a follower bodyguard person, so I did the whole Sven Faendal thing so I could get Faendal as a follower. I found it kind of funny that her brother was cussing her out as I was talking to her. While I was there, I just went and got the quest from him so I could bring back the Golden Claw and get money, which was always nice. And after that, I went straight to Faendal, and for somehow defending his honor, he agreed to follow me to the death, so that was nice. Faendal and I were heading up the road to Bleak Barrow, where we encountered several wolves, but he protected me like a less cool version of Legolas. On the way up to Bleak Falls Barrow, we passed this little area where the bandits are, so I just walked past because I didn't have time to deal with that. Then we made it to Bleak Falls Barrow. I ran past every single enemy and hoped that Faendal would just take care of them for me. Once inside Bleak Falls Barrow, Faendal was actually nowhere to be seen, so I had to wait for several hours. And eventually he showed up, which is great. So I sneaked past these bandits and hoped I could get around them, but I remembered my sneak level isn't too high, so when they saw me, I just ran away and let Faendal take care of them. And while he was fighting, I just decided to start lockpicking the chest, and eventually they were all dead. So I continued through the barrow like normal. I eventually came to this room with like the puzzles. I just let the arrows kill that guy because if he's stupid enough to put in the wrong code, he deserves to die. So then I switched all of the pedestals to the right code, pulled the lever, and continued. I looted the chest, went down the stairs, and several skeevers came to attack me, so I kind of just sat at the top and waited for Faendal to kill them all. Once that was done, I went down into the depths where there were several spiderwebs. So I tried as hard as I could to get Faendal to actually cut down the spiderwebs because I didn't want to use my fists, but then it didn't work. So I just had to use my fists, and I very carefully moved the spiderwebs out of the way, making sure that I didn't actually hurt Faendal or anything in the process, and I just kind of watched Faendal kill the spider. This took an extremely long time, so I just ate a snack while watching, and then it eventually turned on me, so I just ran and I hid in the hallway until Faendal was able just to get back up and kill the spider for me. Once he killed the spider, I looted it, made sure to keep the venom inside of it, and then I went and talked to Arvel the Swift, and I once again tried to get Faendal to cut him down, but it didn't work. So I was extremely careful while using my fist to cut him down, making sure I didn't hurt him. Then he just took off running, and I didn't really have the motivation to run him down and beat him to death, so I just let him run, knowing the Draugr would probably take care of it for me, and then I just looted everything while slowly making my way over. And I was right. When I walked over, he was fighting Draugr and completely got murdered by them. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I just snuck over when the Draugr weren't looking and looted his body. I took all of his armor off and gave it to Faendal so he could be a little bit protected, which was nice. And Faendal kept running into the same trap over and over again. Once he was actually able to pass it, though, I gave him the armor, and he looked very nice. And then I ran past all of the, what's the word, the axes that came down, and I actually waited for the Draugr to come through so it would kill them, and then I would stop it. That way it would take care of all of them, but I technically wouldn't have killed them, so it was nice. But then Faendal was glitching through the wall, and he was completely gone for the rest of this part. And then this Draugr somehow got through, so then I had to run back through, so that way I could try and kill it, and it eventually worked. But still, Faendal wasn't here with me, so I just sprinted through the entire thing. So yeah, when I was searching through this chest, I found this really cool iron plate helmet, which is probably the best thing that I've had through this entire playthrough. And I jumped over the Draugr and continued. Literally, the whole of this barrow just basically me running like an idiot while being chased by countless Draugr. And occasionally stopping to loot chests, as you just saw. So Faendal finally showed up after this room, so I just healed myself while watching him kill everyone, and then I walked through all of the knives and everything. Once we got to the locked door, I used the code on the back of the claw to swirl the things and make the door open for me. Once I was inside, Faendal actually didn't show up, so I had to wait for a little bit for him to come. And once he did, I searched the chest. Then I got the Word of Power. While that was happening, the Draugr jumped out of the coffin and started attacking me. So I did what any honorable Nord would do, and I ran away and let Faendal take care of the problem. This fight was extremely long because Faendal doesn't seem to have a very high armor class, so he just kept falling down. And so I just ran around, sometimes hiding, while he would occasionally take them out. So I just basically watched Budget Legolas take care of the job while I was his cheerleader on the sidelines. After an extremely long time, Faendal finally shot, and the arrow hit perfectly and killed the Draugr Overlord. And I was so proud of him. I went over there, looted his body, and I got the Dragonstone. With that, I left the cave and headed back to Riverwood to collect my reward. Once I was back in Riverwood, I went to the trader and I gave him the claw, and he gave me 400 gold, which I think was a pretty fair deal because I have no money. And once we were friends, I went and I looted everything in the back that I could without it being stealing. And with that, I was back on my way to Whiterun. When I was there, I saw the companions fighting the giant, but I figured I'm not really here to do the companions questline, so I just kind of let them kill the giant, and I continued. And if you look at this, it kind of looks like Whiterun's on fire, but I know it's just from the forge, so that's fine. When I was there, the Whiterun guard approached me, and they kind of got mad. Why am I here? So I told them I was here for dragons, and they believed me. Because I totally looked like a trustworthy person, just saying. I wanted to show you guys how pretty the mods were, so I hope you enjoyed that. I made my way up to Dragon's Reach, and I went and approached the Jarl. Then his housecarl came and got mad at me for approaching him, so I just kind of whizzed past her conversation, went to the Jarl, told him what happened, and then he took me to the court wizard. And then the wizard sent me on a quest to get the Dragonstone, but I already have the Dragonstone. Most of the time, though, I just kind of sat there and bored him while they talked. I gave Sovngarde the Dragonstone, and he was kind of like, oh, you are cut from the different cloth than what the Jarl normally throws at me, or whatever it is that he says. And then the housecarl came to get us both, and then we went upstairs to talk to Jarl Bolgrif. Jarl Bolgrif sent us to go kill the dragon, and he asked me to go there because I was at Helgen, which makes perfect sense. While the dragon was literally attacking his city, he's like, you know, if you wanted to, you could buy a house in the city. You just need to talk to my steward about it, which I thought was really funny because we're literally under attack, but, I mean, okay. With that, I left Dragon's Reach, ready to watch everyone else save the city. I waited there for an extremely long time until Irleth came and talked to everyone, and then we made it to the watchtower. So just like any brave person would do, I hid inside of the watchtower. So the dragon showed up and just kind of started attacking everybody, but I just watched. It was awesome. And eventually, the dragon was dead. So I walked up, looted the body, and absorbed the dragon soul, and everyone was freaking out because I was the dragonborn. So I shouted for them, and then I left. I went back to the Jarl. And while I was going, the Greybeards from High Hrothgar summoned me, and that's where I would be going next. But first I went to Jarl Bolgrif, told him about what happened, and he urged me to listen to the Greybeard summons. While I was there, I found Lydia. I was really excited about it. So I took everything from Faendal. I think I took his house key. Okay. So, whoops. I took everything from Faendal, gave it to Lydia because she is stronger than he is. And then I went to the wizard and I tried to buy the spell tome Calm because I thought it'd be nice if someone was attacking me, I could just cast Calm on them so we wouldn't have to fight. And so I made my way up to Iverstead, and I was being chased by wolves the entire time because I don't know where Lydia went, okay? She was supposed to be there with me. She wasn't. I was chased. So I ran into Iverstead hoping the guards would take care of at least some of the wolves. I talked to Klimek, grabbed his supplies, and made my way up the 7,000 steps. Lydia was nowhere to be seen, so I was being attacked by wolves, so I used the battle cry, which made all of the wolves and everything flee from combat, which actually worked. After a painstakingly long time, I made it to High Hrothgar. I dropped Klimek's supplies off in the chest and went inside.
So, a dragonborn appears.
Once inside, Lydia actually showed up. I talked to Aringir and he started educating me about the Dragonborn and asked me to demonstrate the Unrelenting Force Shout. They wanted me to shout at them, which actually didn't do any damage, and they asked for it, so it doesn't count, okay? They gave me the other word of power for Fus Roda. So they gave me Ro, which I used and I demonstrated on the little projection that they used. I told Lydia to wait behind the Greybeards and I was extremely careful while using the shout, that way I wouldn't accidentally hit any of them and cause damage. They eventually took me outside and taught me Whirlwind Sprint. So I absorbed a dragon soul from him, and then I used the shout to demonstrate that I am the Dragonborn and I can learn new things quickly. Then after that, Aringir sent me to pick up the Horn of Jurgen Windcaller. At this point, I realized I wasn't going to be able to do this with just one follower, so I went to Whiterun and hired a carriage to Riften. As I was traveling through the forest, I was getting chased and attacked by wolves and everything, so I just continued running and eventually ran into the companions. So I just went and hid behind them as they killed the wolves for me, and yeah, so that was nice of them. Eventually, I made my way to Dayspring Canyon, which is the home of the Dawnguard. Once I was in Dayspring Canyon, I talked to Agamir, and I agreed to walk with him up to the castle. And as we were walking, I was really hoping that Isran wouldn't have me brawl him in some way, because I couldn't remember if that was needed to get into the place. So I just kind of appreciated all the vampire hunters doing all of their work, and eventually I went to the castle. But yeah, that dude kind of got stuck right there, and I don't know what his problem was, but when I went inside of the castle, it kind of fixed it. So we went in there with Isran arguing with Tolan, and yeah, I was kind of watching them argue for a little bit until Esbern came up to me, and we talked, and he recruited me into the Dawnguard, and him and Tolan sent me to Dim Hollow Crypt because they said that there were a whole bunch of vampires doing it. And the reason I'm doing this will make sense soon. So he said I could, like, take anything I needed, so I went and I took all the gold and I looted everything because I wasn't coming back, so there were no lasting consequences. And Esbern was getting mad at this dude because he didn't have a weapon on him, but neither did I. So I took all of their stuff from the kitchen, and I actually used the fire to make some food. And I couldn't find any Dawnguard armor anywhere. So I actually left Dayspring Canyon and made my way to another area called Grom's Pass. And I was once again being chased by wolves, and I couldn't find Lydia anywhere. So I went inside of the cave, and I waited for several hours hoping she would show up, but she didn't. It was at this point I realized I was super stupid because I actually told her to wait at the graveyards. So I fast traveled back to High Hrothgar, went inside, and I told Lydia to follow me, and then I went back to Grom's Pass. While we were there, we were attacked by several goblins, so I just kind of stood back and let Lydia take care of them. I actually made a whole nother video on this place, so once again, it'll be in the link in the description or on the top corner. So Lydia was stuck blocking, so I left for a little bit, waited, and came back, and she was fixed. So she was killing all the goblins. I healed her a little bit, and while she was fighting the blue god, I went to heal Lydia, and I healed the blue god. Poor Lydia. So she eventually killed them, and I looted his entire body, and so I did it for a reason so I could get this cute little goblin named Go, because he is extremely strong, and he can actually summon a storm atronach, which is insane. So I went back to Whiterun, and I got a carriage to Morthal, but it's extremely hard to see because it was snowy. Eventually I made it to Dim Hollow Crypt, and I went inside, and there were vampires everywhere. So I just kind of let Lydia take care of them while I stood back and watched. I looted the vampire bodies, and their armor was better than mine, so I took it, wore it, and was completely fashionable. I pulled the chain to open up the gates, and I jumped out the window. I didn't think it would actually work, but I wanted to try it, and I did, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Lydia, Go, and I went through the rest of Dim Hollow Crypt, and to my shock, Lydia died! I was just kind of sitting there watching my friend's body in horror, and then just like any other Skyrim player, I just went back in time so she would still be alive. And as I was doing all of this stuff, I actually contracted the vampire disease, so that was fun. But I kind of watched them all kill the vampire hunters there. So then I just waited for my followers to take care of the vampire hunters, and I continued on to get Serana. I got stabbed in the hand, as you can see here. That was fun. Then I just moved all of the little pedestals over and eventually opened up her tomb. The thing with Serana is that if you don't actually take her back to her family, she's with you as a permanent follower as long as you don't dismiss her. So this way, I'm in vanilla, but I still have 3 followers with me, which is really, really good. I made it to the Colosseum, got the Word of Power, and eventually left Dim Hollow Crypt. So instead of returning to Esbern like I was supposed to, I just went on with what I was supposed to do to beat the game. Eventually, Lydia, Serana, Go, and I made it to Jurgen's tomb. I tried sneaking past all of the enemies, but my sneak level wasn't too good because I was only level 3 at this point. So I just kind of sprinted away while everyone else took care of it. Once in this big open room, I actually went down to the bottom and got to become a Wraithriel shout because I figured that would be an extremely important shout here, because if I needed to escape from enemies, I could just use that shout and leave. My followers were nowhere to be seen, and I was being chased by a little spider. So I just took the note which says that the horn isn't there and it's in Riverwood, and then I went to Riverwood. And while I was there, the cultists showed up, but I didn't want to deal with the cultists right now, so I just went into the inn and completely ignored them. While I was in there, I talked to Delphine, tried to get the attic room, and she thought she was really smart. It's like, oh, there's no attic room, and then she's like, oh, you're the Dragonborn. So then she gave me the horn and gave me the whole spill about, oh my goodness, there's dragons. You need to prove to me that you're Dragonborn because I don't believe a word that the Greybeards say. I agreed to meet her at Kynes Grove, and then I went into Riverwood, but when I got there, I realized that my followers weren't with me in the inn, and they were in fact killing the entire town. And at this point, Delphine turned on me and just started like beating me. So then my followers turned on Delphine, but the problem is Delphine's an essential follower, so she can't be killed and all that stuff. So even the guards were beating up Delphine and my followers, and it was an entire mess. Like everyone was just dead, including Alvar, who actually helped me out earlier. Go literally stabbed him. With all of the civilians dead, I actually made my way to a carriage, which then took me to Windhelm. And when I was there, Delphine followed, and she was still super angry at me, so my followers and her got into another fight. And of course, I couldn't complete the storyline while they were all fighting, so then I just fast traveled to High Hrothgar, hoping if I gave Delphine some time, she would just like chill out. So then I went and talked to them about the Horn of Jurgen Windcaller, and then they said I had passed all the trials, and they were extremely proud of me. And so then they all screamed at me, because apparently that's what you do when you're proud of people. Then I made my way back to Kynesgrove, and thankfully Delphine had calmed down, so she was no longer mad at me. And I was there in time to watch Alduin resurrect the dragon. And for some reason, when I got up there, my cool view I wanted to have of this wasn't there because it started snowing. And then my followers took on the dragon. During the fight, the dragon actually like broke one of its wings and like crashed down next to me. Not long after, though, Ghost Storm Atronach actually killed the dragon, and I absorbed its soul, proving to Delphine that I was, in fact, the Dragonborn.
I figured out how we're going to get you into the Thalmor Embassy.
Okay, so at this point, Delphine wanted to get me to the Thalmor Embassy, and that's when I began panicking, because I'm not going to have any of my followers. So I actually went to Whiterun, and then I bought a Flame Atronach spell from that guy, and I was going to use it sparingly, that way I could actually, like, you know, survive in there. Then I went to Solitude, walked past Rodvir's execution, tried not to care. I rented a room, and then I went to Malborn and gave him all of my stuff.
Really? You're who she picked?
Malborn was like extremely disappointed that I was the one going in, which kind of made sense because I didn't even give him any weapons, and I gave him every single potion that I owned and every single ounce of food that I owned, even though I probably wouldn't need it, but why not? It also took every fiber of my being not to just like slap him for being mean. I slept in the rented room so it would be daytime, that way I could go to the Blue Palace and actually buy a Conjure Flame Atronach spell, because I completely forgot that I already had one because I recorded this on a different day. So I went and bought it from the Vampire Lady, and when I bought it said I already had it, so I just had to revert back to an older save. Then I did the Walk of Shame back into the city. So I made my way back to the stables, and I actually talked to Delphine, and once I told her I had Malborn smuggle all the stuff in, she said I could pass for a noble. So I totally look like a noble. So I went and sat in the carriage for a little bit, then realized that wasn't going to work. So then I went and talked to her, and I went to the Thalmor Embassy. While I was there, I ran into Elenwen, who said that she remembered my name, which makes sense because it's kind of a hard one to forget. Malborn told me to cause a distraction. And who do we know here that could possibly cause a distraction? Guys, in my notes I wrote, this man is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of distracting people. What does that mean? Once everyone was distracted, I actually went into the back with Malborn, and I stole all of the cheese from the kitchen. Hey, sorry to interrupt the video. I just wanted to say this took an extremely long time to record, edit, and do a voiceover for. So if you could hit the like and maybe subscribe, that would be awesome. Thanks. Enjoy the video. I got all of my gear from the chest and decided it was time to activate super secret stealth mode. Once I had gotten all of my gear back, I actually went into the level up menu and put 2 perks into stealth, because I figured I can't fight, so I need to sneak past all of these people. And I kind of regretted not buying a ward spell, because I realized if they're coming after me, I'm going to need a way to defend myself. And I could see them both in there, and oh man, it was really stressful. So I went to the other room, and I saw that there were some Thalmor clothes, and I took them, and nothing worked. So I just decided to just continue on trying to sneak past. It was at this point I wondered if the Thalmor are blind. I thought I saw an invisibility potion on the shelf over here, so I made my way over, but it was actually just a draught of strength. I really wish I would have bought an invisibility potion, because it would have made life so much easier. But yeah, these are the Thalmor soldiers walking past and looking at me and not even noticing. And then for this Thalmor soldier, I stole his line just to be kind of annoying, so later he'd be like, oh wait, where's it at? And then it was me. I stole it. Once he walked past, I made my way outside, but I tried several times, and I just could not sneak past these guys, so I just sprinted through. I made my way into Elenwen's place, or whatever it is. I stole all of the food there, and eventually went to this back room. I stole a drum at one point. I took several healing potions because they were getting my health down really, really low. I went into the chest, I stole everything I needed, and then I went down to like the torture chamber room, and as I predicted, everyone was there for me. So I tried jumping down, but the railing was actually doing its job, and I just couldn't get down. So then I had to run around a few different times, and I went to Conjuration, and I put a perk into Conjuration so I could try and save my life with some spells. I continued just running away from everyone, and eventually conjured a wolf, because I realized I couldn't conjure a flame atronach, and continued sprinting around until I got everything from this chest. While everyone was distracted with what I conjured, I went and hid in Elwyn's study until they stopped looking for me. I went upstairs and decided to loot the entire place. I got a Nordic Circlet of Minor Magicka, which I wore, which is really good. And at this point, I once again have decided the Thalmor are blind. He walked directly past me and he almost bumped into me at one point. So while he wasn't looking, I stole his pocket change and walked away. While I was in Elwyn's room, I saw that she had a random skull in there. I wondered if it was like from an ancestor or something. So I stole the skull. That way they couldn't see what a disappointment their descendant has become. I made my way past several guards and went back to the torture room. While I was there were only 2 Thalmor guards guarding the prisoner. While I was hiding there, my sneak actually leveled me up to level 4, which was amazing. Sneaking past these 2 guards took a few tries though, which was annoying. But eventually when I got up to this dude, I actually looked into his inventory, but our keys were exactly the same. So then I just slipped a carrot into his inventory. That way he'll look at it later and be like, why is there a carrot in my inventory? But it was me, I put it there. So I eventually made it into there with the prisoner, and then he told me about the exit. So I stupidly freed him when there were still enemies around, and he ran and eventually died. Bro was gifted freedom and just instantly died, and I felt really bad. Once they killed the dude, they were after me. So I kept conjuring a wolf and then running away, hoping they wouldn't find me, but they did. So what I actually did is I jumped onto this table and jumped onto the little wooden planks on the top, and I kind of looked at the guard and I yelled, "It's over, I have the high ground," but they weren't too pleased. But I could actually conjure my little spells on the floor and let them attack. And I sped this up a lot, because no joke, I was in the embassy for over an hour. Like, this took forever. They're stronger than you think, especially if you're just like level 3 and 4 the entire time. And also I kept falling off the rafters, which was super annoying. I couldn't figure out why the story wasn't progressing, and then I realized I need to actually like read the book and then they'll come. So once they came, I did the same exact thing and they died. So eventually I went and I looted this guy. I took his friend's armor and was wearing it. And then I went into the cave with the troll. I took the unusual gem and then I ran because that's someone else's problem. I made my way back to Riverwood and was trying not to be judged by the very, very few civilians that were actually left alive. While I was there, a courier started chasing me down, and I don't like couriers, so I tried running, but he caught me and he gave me the Rising Dead quest, but I didn't want to deal with that right now, so I just decided no, put it in my pocket, and decided it was someone else's problem. I went back into the inn and talked to Delphine, and she was kind of surprised that I was still alive, but then I told her about, what's the old guy's name? Esbern. I told her about Esbern, so then she decided to send me to Riften, which made me wonder why she can't do any of this herself, but it's fine. So then I made my way back to Riften and eventually realized I was going to have to talk to Brynjolf, which was not a problem because I love Brynjolf. He has like the coolest voice ever. So basically he decided that I needed to become a criminal. So I picked several locks, which was for some reason harder than it should have been. But yeah, I picked several locks and then I took the ring out of the chest and planted it on another dude so that other dude would think he stole the ring. And once that was done, I went back and talked to Brynjolf, and he said he was impressed, which I was like, oh, Brynjolf. I made my way to Riften, just like Brynjolf told me to do. And while I was there, I saw these 2 people just talking, so just for fun, I decided to pickpocket the dude. I took his 50 gold without any problem, but when I tried to steal the garnet, he caught me. But I kind of just wasn't in the mood to revert back to an earlier save, so I just let everyone kill him, so I figured it was fine. But while they were fighting, for some reason, Go glitched into the ceiling and he was just floating. And when I walked over to him, he stood up and I could just see his little feet poking out. So I'm like, oh, okay, it's fine. While going through the ratways, I actually found Scritch, which is a skeever pet you can get, but you need to find the key, which is on like a dead dude. But for some reason, Serana resurrected the dead dude, so I had to chase him down and wait till he died and actually get the key to get my little pet, Scritch! He is the cutest skeever you will ever see in your life. Oh, just look at him. Once I made my way to the Ragged Flag and I went and talked to Brynjolf, little did he know I wasn't actually coming to him for a quest, I just wanted to listen to him talk because he has a nice voice. I am extremely sad he's not a follower, by the way. I went to the bartender and he made me pay 113 gold for information on Esbern. I was just a little bit salty and I will be asking Delphine for compensation once I return. Serana and Lydia didn't show up for a while, so Go kind of fought everyone, but once they did show up, Serana just kind of fell off she like barrel rolled off the top, so I just continued through. And I stole several pieces of gold and everything, and these little chests are adorable, but how does the shield fit in there when the shield is bigger than the chest? When I made my way down to the bottom level, Serana scared the life out of me, and then I eventually made it to Esbern. And he was nice.
Go away!
And yeah, this is a cute little house that he's been living in. While he was packing, I just kind of went and took a few things since he wasn't going to use them, so I might as well. While we were leaving, we got attacked by Thalmor soldiers, and my recording stopped. So that was nice. If anyone else is using the Xbox recorder, just know it only goes for 2 hours. I made my way back to Riverwood, and while Esbern and Delphine were like catching up on old times and everything, I actually just started stealing all the food from there because Delphine owes me big time. And I went back into her cellar and I took all of her gold, which I took as a compensation for having to pay for information on Esbern earlier. Esbern and Delphine were talking for an extremely long time, so I just watched YouTube while they finished up. They wanted to head to Skyhaven Temple, so I fast traveled to Whiterun and then bought a carriage to, what was it, Markarth? Yeah, I bought a carriage to Markarth, and while I was there, a few thugs came over and started attacking me. So then, once my followers killed them, I actually looked into their inventory, and the dude who hired them is a Thalmor soldier. No, not just a Thalmor soldier, a dead Thalmor soldier who wanted me dead because I pickpocketed him and then let my followers beat him to death. It was continuously raining, so I took this as a moment to make a sad montage because I had to work with Delphine. While I was doing the sad montage, I actually got attacked by a dragon, so I did the noble thing and ran away. And while I was running, the dragon found me, so I just continued to run while it shot fire at me, and I hoped one of my followers would like either take care of it or I would just run away. While I was running, I actually ran into Esbern and Delphine, and while we were there, the dragon started shooting its ice magic at us. And then I thought, wait a second, ice magic? Wasn't he shooting fire at us earlier? And to my shock, there are 2 dragons chasing me. 2. Why? I haven't hurt anyone. I didn't do anything wrong. Why are there 2 dragons chasing me? It took a while and a lot of healing from me before eventually they were able to take down the ice dragon. After absorbing the dragon's soul, I went down and I realized that there were a whole bunch of Forsworn, so I just went onto like the mountain above him, and then I dropped down and then just went into the cave so I wouldn't have to deal with any of the Forsworn, because at the moment I am still a level 4, so I can get hit pretty easily. I tried to sneak through everything like I did the Thalmor Embassy, but Esbern had other plans and decided just to run up and start attacking everyone. He required some healing, which I gladly took care of. It was always very nice to be useful. Then I went up to these pedestals, switched them all to Dragonborn, and continued through the way to Skyhaven Temple. Eventually I made my way to the Blood Seal, and I'm trying to figure out why so many Skyrim quests require your blood. Like, they already know I'm Dragonborn, but it's fine. Once I gave my blood to the thing, it actually opened up the way into the Skyhaven Temple. While we were in Skyhaven Temple, Esbern took an incredibly long time reading the wall. He was basically saying that the ancient Dragonborns used a shout called Dragon Rent to actually knock the dragons out of the sky, and I offered that the Greybeards might know. So I went to Aurangir and started talking about him, but he was kind of salty. He didn't want me fighting Alduin, and then his friend started speaking Parcel Tongue and convinced him otherwise. Aurangir came to his senses and told me he would take me to Parthenax. So they told me to wait outside, and they were coming, but they were extremely slow, so I just stood inside of the ice and decided to level up my restoration while I waited. Once they all got there, they gave me the clear sky shout so I could actually make my way to Parthenax. And I was trying to figure out how this random goat could survive without using the shout when I had to. So I didn't get it. It's fine. Eventually I made it to the top of the mountain and Parthenax came down, who was actually a dragon, and started talking to me. I kind of forgot that talking to Parthenax kind of feels like I'm getting an English lecture in school or something. So he taught me like the fire breath shout and asked me to use it on him. So once again, he was asking, so it doesn't count as damage, and I don't even think that I did damage to him or whatever, but it's fine. He asked for it, so it's fine. So once I was there, he said that he did not know the shout, and I needed an Elder Scroll. So I used the Become Ethereal shout and actually jumped down the mountain because climbing down using the paths was just too much work. I went to Arngir, who suggested I go to the College of Winterhold. So I took a carriage to Winterhold, and once I got there, I tried to get into the college. But they wanted to test me. So I told them I was Dragonborn, and they were kind of shocked, so I just demonstrated a shout, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, you're Dragonborn, we'd love to have you as a student." And so I went across a like extremely dangerous bridge. She told me to talk to Mirabelle, but I ignored Mirabelle and went straight to the library instead. The grumpy orc didn't really want to talk to me until I said I was Dragonborn. Apparently I'm bragging about that now.
Wait, were you the one the Greybeards were calling?
Once he figured out I was Dragonborn, he was more than happy to help me, so he gave me several books on the Elder Scrolls, but one was like completely not readable. So I went and talked to the dude, and he said that a college student had actually written the book and had gone crazy. So I needed to find him in the Icelands. And honestly, I completely forgot about this part of the quest, to be honest, and I was just not happy because I hate this part, as I will show you why in a moment, because it's just awful. And at this point, my recording stopped. Again, I'm just going to tell you what happened basically after this point until my recording starts up again. So basically, I went to the crazy guy, okay? And the crazy guy was talking to me, and I could literally feel my soul die when he said to go to Blackreach. Because I was just secretly hoping that the game would forget that Blackreach was a thing and be like, "Oh, here's the Elder Scroll, go kill Alduin." But no, they wanted me to go to Blackreach. When I was little, I tried to come here, and I just didn't understand it. So I died like 6 times, and I lost all of my followers there. It was awful. I hate the place. Once I was actually inside of the ruin, I went in there and I ate some oil from a dwarven spider, because why not? Then I just kind of looted everything and started reading some research notes, but then I remembered that I didn't care, so then I just ate some more oil and continued. I was following this Khajiit for a little bit because I was trying to sneak up on him and maybe pickpocket him because I thought it would be fun. But then he turned on me, so my followers killed him. Not much further down, I saw his brother, so I looted the corpse of his brother, and I found a dress on him. So I took the dress and wore it because it looked a lot better on me anyway. That was so harsh! While my followers were fighting, I actually put a few points into restoration to try and help heal them a little bit more because they kept dying too fast in battle, and I wanted to be useful since I couldn't actually help fight. I know I was just talking about being useful, but I was actually using the forge while they were fighting because I wanted to make something. I didn't actually have the materials for it though, so I just enjoyed the fight. I eventually came up on this door, and inside the door were 2 locked chests. And while trying to unlock the door and the 2 locked chests, I eventually broke 3 lockpicks. And inside of the chests were 3 lockpicks, so I literally did that for nothing, and it was completely useless, but it's fine. I unlocked this other door while they were fighting, and apparently it was karma, because there was a spear behind it waiting to attack me, so I just went and hid behind my followers until they eventually took care of it. And I was actually being useful in helping them, and then I saw this little spider just attacking the wall, so I just walked the other way. And I jumped over these little pillars, trying to get past as fast as I could. Eventually, I found like this big hole with a whole bunch of bridges overlapping it, so I just used to become a Ethereal shout, and I jumped down, and there was a Thalmor over there. So I just looted the body, and then I continued to hold perfectly still, hoping he wouldn't see me, or since they're blind, like sense I was there. And I actually was doing a really good job until Go like appeared out of nowhere, and then they completely gave away our spot. So then Go and his Storm Atronach actually took care of me. And so then I healed Go, and then he's become a Ethereal again and jumped down all of the way to the bottom. I clearly was not thinking very clearly because I turned around and was eye to eye with several Thalmor. So then I just healed myself and continued to run up the stairs. Eventually, when I made it high enough up, I used the Become a Ethereal Shout again and jumped down. That way they wouldn't be able to catch me because they would have to run around like a whole bunch of places. While in this room, I watched my followers step on the same trap for at least 5 minutes. It was kind of entertaining, but at the same time, I'm like, guys, just walk around the pressure plate. So while they were doing that, I tried to pickpocket this Thalmor, but it didn't exactly work because he walked away. And so I just walked past him and went up to this area. The place I needed to go was actually stopped by a gate. So I kind of watched everyone take care of the Thalmor. I went, pulled the lever, and opened up the gate. I went up there, and a Centurion started attacking me. So of course I panicked and went and hid behind all of my followers, and was doing my best to heal them as they fought. But yeah, they all died. Well, not like technically died, but they got knocked over. So I was over there with Serana as my last hope, and she got knocked over too. So then I sprinted back up and started healing Go, like begging him, please get up. And eventually he did, and he just poked it once and it died. The Centurion actually had the key I needed to continue, so I took it off his body and watched these two people argue. And once they started attacking, I let my followers take care of it, and I started looting the chests around us, and I got some silver armor. And it looked really, really cool, so I put that on along with the iron plate helmet I found in Bleak Barrow earlier in the playthrough, and I was just kind of like showing it off as they fought. So eventually I opened up this little gate, and it led me into Blackreach. Even though I hate Blackreach, I do have to admit it's really pretty. And you guys do not understand the level of restraint I had to use not to shoot their little crossbow. Eventually I went in and I saw all the Crimson Nirnroot, and so I thought absolutely not. So I robbed the guy and left. When I saw this water, I was really upset that I didn't bring a fishing rod because it would have been really fun to fish in Blackreach. And there were a lot of enemies, so I just ran away screaming. And because I wanted to be the biggest nuisance that I could, I actually used Fus Roda on the little orb in that little tower thing. Fus Roda! And it summoned a dragon. I knew it was gonna happen, but I did it anyways because apparently I crave violence. Since I had just created a massive problem for everyone, I tried to heal my followers and run away, and there were so many enemies, and I realized I might have made a mistake. And I had absolutely no clue where the dragon was, so I just started running. There was a Centurion and everything chasing me. It was not a good situation. So I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna find the exit and hope my followers are able to follow me through. But as I was on my way to the exit, I found the dragon. And at this point, I just ran away, and I realized I did not have to make Blackreach this difficult, but I did. Eventually, I was walking. He looks like a lizard. I can't. Dragons look so silly when they're crawling on the ground. Okay, so anyway, I opened the door and pulled the lever and made my way up to where I needed to go. As I made it to the level I needed to go, I couldn't find any of my followers except for Scritch. So I did the only logical thing that I could have done, and I just robbed the entire place. Once I eventually made it over to the Elder Scroll, I started pushing all of the buttons, and then realized Lydia and Serana are alive because they showed up, so I was extremely happy, and then I kept pushing all the buttons until the lexicon was carved and the Elder Scroll was brought down for me. So once it was open, I actually took the Elder Scroll and left this place as fast as I possibly could because I hate it there.
You have it.
I eventually made it to Skyrim and fast traveled to the Throne of the World. Parthenax urged me to quickly read the Elder Scroll, so I did. I'm sure we've all seen what happens when you use the Elder Scroll. Basically, there's a few Dragonborn there fighting Alduin, and they use Dragon Rend to actually bring him to the ground, and then they send him into the future by accident. Once I stopped reading the scroll, Alduin was actually there. And he was talking about how he was going to kill me and everything, so this started a battle. Parthenax urged me to use Dragon Rend on Alduin. And I missed. I tried again and eventually did hit him, and I actually did look this up online, but Dragon Rend does not cause any additional damage to the dragon, which is really helpful in this case. And so I continued to shout at Alduin while everyone else fought him off, including Parthenax. After an eternity of me just continuously screaming at Alduin while Parthenax and everyone worked, Alduin was defeated. And he couldn't actually like attack me while he was like in this weird stage, so I just walked over and gave him a big hug because why not? He didn't seem too happy, but I mean, he didn't attack me. I think we can all agree though that Parthenax carried that fight. I needed a way into Skuldafn, where Alduin actually lives, so we needed to capture a dragon. So then I went to the Jarl and asked him to trap a dragon in his castle, and understandably, he was confused. Jarl Balgriff like actually refused to let me trap a dragon in his castle because he said it would leave him like defenseless against the civil war going on. And so we suggested an option of actually using a peace treaty to solve this, which is like the most pacifist thing you can do, so I'm very excited about it. But I have actually never used this option because I always like to join the civil war. I like to fight. I think it's fun. So I was very excited to see how this is going to go. After that, I went to Aringir and I bought a better restoration spell and a lesser word along with a reanimate corpse because I was worried about going into Skuldafn and not having anything to help me. Because at this point, I was still level 4. Here's a little editor's note. I already knew Lesser Ward, so I just kind of wasted my money. I went to the Greybeards and started talking to them, but they weren't too keen on the idea of a peace treaty because they don't like to meddle into like political affairs and stuff. But eventually they did agree to help me, which I really appreciate. Before realizing the peace treaty was a thing, I was like trying so hard to figure out how I could possibly go through the Civil War questline without being anyone, because I know killing Ulfric is like an execution. So it was just a whole thing. I went up to this Greybeard to say hi, and then I stupidly walked off the edge and died, and in my notes I just wrote big dum dum. So eventually I made my way to Solitude and started sprinting away from this courier because he was trying to talk to me, and again, for some reason I just like to run from couriers. He eventually did catch me though. Once in Solitude, I went and talked to General Tullius first, and I approached him with the idea of a peace treaty, but he didn't seem too keen on the idea, but eventually I talked him into it, and I really wanted his outfit, and I resisted the urge to stab just so I could take it, and was like really wanting to go raid his closets, but I realized I didn't have time for that. So then I went to Windhelm, and I went to the Palace of the Kings and started talking to Ulfric about the idea of a peace treaty. And I really liked his outfit too, and was like trying to figure out why did I want to go like raid everyone's closets. So once I actually like got him to agree to the peace treaty, I did go raid all of his closets, and I could not find any like duplicates of his outfit, which made me really sad. I returned to High Hrothgar to tell like the Greybeards that the meeting was on, and I wanted to look a bit more professional. So I put on the dress that I robbed off of some dead guy at Blackreach, and yeah, now I look very professional for the peace treaty signing, so I was very, very happy. And eventually, Delphine and Esbern showed up. I'm like, how did they make it up the stairs? And then it was basically Greybeards versus Delphine, and the Greybeards eventually decided to let them stay. Eventually, I made my way to like the peace treaty room, and I actually talked to Elenwen, and luckily she didn't seem too salty about me like murdering all of her guards before. Then I just kind of went and I talked to everyone, and Ulfric said some bad words. And then I sat at the head of the table, which made me feel extremely important.
You insult us by bringing her to this negotiation?
Eventually, Ulfric was starting to get annoyed with Elenwen, and they wanted her to go. So then they wanted my input on it, and I wanted to stay like as neutral as possible. So I'm like, you know what? Elenwen can stay.
Ulfric, why so hostile? After all, it's not the Thalmor that's burning your farms and killing your sons.
Just after I said she could stay, Elenwen started saying some bad things, so I just reverted to an older save and made her leave.
Ulfric, enjoy your petty victory.
I was really hoping that, like, about here, Go would just, like, poke her as she left. And then I realized Sorana was standing in the back, still waiting for me to take her home. And eventually, they wanted my input on how to, like, settle things, on, like, what city should this person get? And eventually, like, they asked my opinion about it. So I'm like, oh, Riften seems like a good trade. And then General Tullius had the nerve to say that he's disappointed in me.
You disappoint me, Dragonborn. I accepted your invitation on trust in your good name. But it seems you intend to favor Ulfric.
And so I'm like, yeah, that's why half of Skyrim hates you, Tullius, but it's all fine. Eventually, Esbern got up and like started talking to everyone, but he seemed to glitch, and we were just like staring at each other for at least 3 minutes. It was super, super awkward. Eventually, he like teleported a little bit with the glitch, and it seemed to fix the problem. I realized by the way they were talking, they seemed to believe that I'm some sort of hero, which makes me feel extremely special, even though I have not done one single thing in this entire playthrough. Eventually, they decided to come to a peace treaty until I take care of Alduin. Once the meeting was adjourned, I went and sat next to the Greybeards while they all congratulated me on my victory over Alduin, even though we all know I did nothing. Esbern gave me the word of power to use to actually summon the dragon and Nietzsche trap, and then the Blade tried to talk to me about killing Parthenax in the Greybeard's house, so I just ignored them and walked away. So I went back to Whiterun and actually fell in the water while getting the cinematic shot, which was just perfect. So I wanted to get my restoration level up, so I was going to use this forge. So I wanted to stand in it and then use my restoration spell to continuously heal myself, but nothing worked. I also tried to use another forge, but it had the same results. So basically, I just needed to get my levels up. I went to the Bannered Mare and just had Uthgerd beat me while healing myself. And I did this for probably a good 30 minutes and got some of my levels up. I wanted to earn some money so I could pay someone to give me levels, so I actually glitched my way under Whiterun and I ran around the outside of the city to get the chest that is underneath the Skyforge. With the money that I actually earned from selling everything, I bought potions and all that good stuff with food just to be able to actually keep myself alive while I'm at Skuldafn. I talked to the Jarl and told him I was ready to set the trap, which this time he was happy to agree with me. We went out onto the balcony and I actually used the summon shout to call Odahviing. I know that the guard right there is gonna die and I couldn't do anything about it, so I just kind of got a cinematic view for you guys. While he was fighting, I continued to use the Dragon Wrench shout to try and drag him down. All of the guards and all of my followers were trying to attack him, but I continued to back away, hoping that he would come after me and we could drop the trap down on top of him. It went exactly as I wanted, and the trap sprung and it actually locked him inside. I went over and I talked to him and he essentially told me that Alduin is in Skuldafn and he's actually using that to get inside of Sovngarde, and the only way I can get there is to actually fly as a dragon, so he offered to give me a ride if I let him out. So I freed him and he walked to the edge, and at this time I actually said goodbye to all of my followers and hoped that somehow Serana would make it home safely, because I did not know if I would be coming back. And then I jumped on Odahviing's back and he took me to Skuldafn. Once we made it to Skuldafn, Odahviing instantly left me. He's like, I don't want any part of this, but good luck. Oh, this place is extremely hard. So I was more than a little bit nervous, and to be honest with you guys, I did not think I was actually gonna get this far. I thought I would be stopped at the Civil War. So I used the muffle spell to kind of quiet my steps, and I snuck my way through. And at one point I realized that the armor I'm wearing is extremely loud. So I actually removed all of my armor so I could walk silently, and I continued to make my way through all of the Draugr. I've come to the conclusion that the Draugr are just as blind as the Thalmor. The most ridiculous thing happened. As I was sneaking through this place using muffle, a dragon landed in front of me. I thought I was a goner right here and was ready to revert back to an earlier save, but he couldn't see me. I was just sitting there absolutely petrified as my sneak leveled up. We were face to face, and whenever he flew away, another dragon came down and took his place. Every time they would get just a little bit closer, but somehow they didn't see me. I kid you not, this went on for about 10 minutes. I was just too scared to move. It was seriously they were taking turns just to patrol this little teeny tiny area that I'm sitting in. So eventually I took an invisibility potion and I ran. When I thought I made it far enough away, I actually crouched down while my invisibility left, and they found me again. So they just repeated the same cycle for at least 5 minutes. Eventually I realized if I could make my way to that broken building behind them, I might be able to find a way to escape. Since I couldn't win the game while being pinned into a corner, I eventually sprinted into this building, and they did see me do it. So I just chilled in the building until they couldn't see me, and I eventually made my way up to Skuldafn Temple, and the Draugr still couldn't see me. Once inside, I used the muffle spell, which actually makes a lot of noise, so some of the Draugr were drawn over to my position, but I just waited long enough and they left. My sneak leveled up to 40, so I went and put a few skill points into it just so I could do a better job at sneaking around. The hardest part about this puzzle wasn't actually getting all of the not getting all of the pillars correctly. It was trying to stay away from the Draugr because I did not want to be seen. Eventually I got everything right and pulled the lever, which opened up the gate so I could continue into Skuldafn Temple. Came up on some spiders, and somehow I snuck around them, and I still have no idea how they didn't see me. Eventually, though, he ran into me, so I had no choice but to just sprint away. Once the spider ran into me, I conjured a flame atronach, closed the door, and I actually just continued to the next room, and I flipped all of like the signs around so that way they would all be pointing to the correct thing so I could advance. Sneaking through this place was incredibly hard, but somehow it was still not as hard as the Thalmor Embassy. And then I snuck into a room with 2 Draugr, and I still have no clue how they just didn't see me, but I pulled a lever and opened it up into the next room. Once I was to the door, I summoned a flame atronach to actually fight the Draugr for me, and eventually she killed him and I got the diamond claw off of him and opened up the gate. The second I stepped outside, those 2 dragons were on me. They were doing the same thing as before, landing on top of me but not being able to see. Then they would jump up and the other dragon would take his place, except this one was sticking his head into the ground like an ostrich. There were actually a lot more hiding places than I originally thought, so I would just go into a hiding spot and use muffle when I wanted to leave so no one would notice that I was there. Eventually, I saw a dragon priest. He was beginning to close the portal to Sovngarde. I went back to a later save and I just did what any logical person would do, and I booked it. I didn't want the dragon priest catching. I didn't want him closing the portal so I couldn't get through, so I ran and jumped into the portal before anyone knew what was happening. I finally was in Sovngarde and I realized Skyrim needed saving, and it was going to be me who watched it happen. There was a really heavy mist that covered Sovngarde, so I just used the clear skies shout to try and make the path a little bit more visible so I could make my way through. I did talk to a Stormcloak soldier who was kind of nervous, so I said I would lead him, but he kind of got glitched and just wouldn't come, so I just continued on without him and continued clearing the path. Eventually I saw Alduin, and he just looks so cool, guys. Eventually I made my way on top of a little mountain, and there was like a little broken area where it looked like I could get a water power, but I couldn't, so I just continued. Finally, I made it. I was terrified. I thought this is where everything was going to end, because I know for Sun, he challenges you, and you have to fight him, and there's no way I'm gonna be able to fight this guy because I can't hurt anything. So he was gonna fight me. And I know some of you are like, why don't you just like run across the bridge without fighting him? And I actually did it here so I could show you guys what happens. But if you don't get his blessing and try and cross the bridge, you instantly die. I originally thought that this was more like a brawl where you couldn't use magic, shouts, or anything. But instead it wasn't. So I just summoned a flame atronach and kind of let her fight him, hoping that it would somehow work. To my shock, it did. I did not think I was going to be able to make it this far. I had completely thought that my run would stop at the Civil War questline, so I was more than happy that this was actually working. I made my way into the Hall of Valor and actually talked to Ysgramor.
Welcome, Dragonborn.
I find it really cool that you can actually talk to Skyrim's heroes that you hear about in stories. Like I talked to Olaf One-Eye, Ysgramor, and like a whole bunch of other people, and it was just really cool. I love that you can actually see people fighting, and it's just a lot of fun. I did actually, I couldn't steal the golden platters, but I did steal an ox head and like some ox food or something. I think it was an ox leg, I can't exactly remember. Eventually I went and talked to the dead Dragonborn that you can actually see when you use the Elder Scroll, and they said they were ready to help me go fight Alduin. So I was like, okay, I need all of the help I can get because I won't be helping. When I eventually went back out into Sovngarde, I realized that the sky was actually the level up screen. Because like, you know, when you level up and you can like pick different perks and everything, that's what it actually is. And I felt like a big idiot for not actually realizing it before. But I thought it was really cool. So me and the other Dragonborns combined our shouts together to actually clear the skies. But Alduin would like shout and all the mist would come back. So we had to try several times to actually get it to work. Eventually Alduin got sick of us and decided to actually come and fight. Just like my previous fights, I continued to use Dragon Run to try and bring him to the ground while everyone else got the hits in. I would every now and again summon a Flame Atronach. I didn't really want to heavily rely on her, but I still used it. I continued to heal everyone else, hoping that they would be able to actually kill Alduin for me. I found it kind of funny that Sun did like nothing, and he just kind of watched the entire ordeal. After an extremely long and painstaking fight, it was over. Alduin was just sitting there, not moving, but no one else was attacking him. They weren't saying like he's dead or anything, he just wasn't moving. This is when I began to panic, because I realized they want me to get the last hit, but I couldn't get the last hit. So I tried everything. I walked over and I healed him, seeing if maybe he was like glitched or something, but that actually like reverted him to full health, and it just started the entire battle over again. I went back to earlier saves before I actually even made it here, came back, and it was the same exact thing. Nothing was working. I did this boss fight, I think about 4 different times. Not like, he was just continuously just sitting there. And eventually this dude's sword got all glitched, which I thought was hilarious. He couldn't move while glitched though, so I just kind of walked over and gave him another hug, and he looks absolutely done with me. At one point, trying to fix this, I even went back across the bridge trying to get to the Hall of Valor, but they locked me out! I was there trying to save them, and they're like, oh, okay, you're leaving by, and then they quickly locked the door so I couldn't get back in. I reverted to out of Sovngarde, trying to figure this out. And eventually, I just accepted it. I needed to get the last hit in, so I began brainstorming ideas. How can I kill this guy without actually killing him? Then it came to me. What if I summoned a storm? Because I know storms, like, they can sometimes, like, shoot lightning out and everything. If I summoned a storm and it started raining, and some lightning hit Alduin, that wouldn't be me. It would be the lightning that killed him. And it worked. Yes! I did it! Yes! Yes! I couldn't find another option that worked besides that, so I hope it still counts. If it doesn't, I still got to Alduin, and I will take that as a win any day. These people seem to think that I actually did something because they began chanting for me.
All hail the Dragonborn! Hail her with great praise!
I took one last look at Sovngarde, the beautiful land I watched everyone else save, and I decided it was time to go home. So then I talked to Sun, and I told him I was ready to go home, so he sent me back there. He took me back, and I ended up at the throat of the world, where there were like a whole bunch of dragons there, and they began chanting about Alduin and eventually taking off to the skies. After they all left, I talked to Parthenax, and Parthenax essentially told me that I did a good job. Well guys, thank you so much for watching this video. This took absolutely forever to record and edit and do voiceovers for and everything, so if you could hit the like button and maybe subscribe, that would be amazing. I really hope you enjoyed this, and thank you so much for watching.